Hello everyone, good afternoon. This is FIDE Master Niranjan Navalgund and I am here to do the fourth episode of Your Game Our Analysis. And last week as well we received a lot of submissions and today I have picked a record number of games. Let's get started. So I have the chessboard ready, I have the games ready, and if you want to submit your games for the fifth episode, the link is in the description. You can fill the form there. All you have to do is just send your game and you will be part of the raffle, and all these games are selected randomly. And the first game that I have is a game between Sri Harinathan and Vidyut Ganesh, and Sri Harinathan sent us this game and he was white. So let's get started without wasting any time. After e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6, knight c3, everything seems normal. Both players are developing the pieces, but this move was inaccurate because it just gives a pawn for free. So here Sri Harinathan took bishop takes f6, which makes sense, and then he picked the pawn. Now after bishop takes d5, his opponent played bishop g4, and as you can see, this is a pin. And in this position, he could have played bishop to c6 and then played h3. Now ask this question as to where this bishop wants to go. White is a healthy pawn up and should not have any problems. But after castles is when he runs into a problem, because after castles, black has knight d4, which his opponent missed. His opponent played rook b8 because he wanted to defend this pawn, getting ready for a further knight d4, but knight d4 was anyway coming, because after knight d4, the problem is black will take bishop f3 and then bring this bishop to f4. For example, if you play h3, then you need not even play knight f3 to get the pawn. You can simply play bishop f3, gf3, take advantage of this king's position. There is nobody to defend the king, and then just play pawn to c6 and bishop to g5 next. And then bishop will come to f4, and then this is going to be in black's favor. So this is what actually White should have thought about, but he did not, and he played castles. So you must keep in mind that possible knight d4 ideas could come, because if you are having this pin, then it's good to have this bishop e2, but if you don't have the bishop on e2, you must consider h3 g4 in situations like this to break away from the pin. Or you have to be ready to play a move like queen d2 and be okay with bishop takes f3 kind of ideas. Hello Dhanishri, hello Dipesh, hello Pranshu, and hello Master Blaster. Good to know that you are Kimaya. Let's focus on the games. In this position, let me get that right. So in this position, castling was a mistake. And then after rook b8, he got the second chance. He could play bishop c6 and eliminate that knight, which has the potential to cause a lot of problems if the knight lands on d4. But Sri Harinathan did not do it. He played in the game. Now he does it. He plays rook b8, bishop c6. This is the move he should have done earlier. But after rook b8, he has found that bishop c6 is possible now. So he did that. That was the good part of this game. And then his opponent played bishop f3 here. Not really necessary, but he did it. And then I am coming to the next critical position. That is after queen b2. He could have played maybe pawn to c4 and then knight to g3, but he played pawn to c3, making this pawn dependent on this knight. So this knight has to stay on e2 to protect c3 pawn, because then if he had played c4 directly, then this knight would have been free. But now that c3 has been played, this pawn on d3 also is weak to a certain extent. It's not relevant now, but it will be in the future. So I think these were some of the loose moves that reduce the chances of fight. And then you see a3. So it's important not to make pawn moves unnecessarily, because they are expensive, committal moves. Once you go with your pawn ahead, they cannot come back. So you have to keep that in mind. Okay, so let's see what happened next. Then a few moves happened, and in this position, after rook fb1, black could have taken queen takes b1. So the player who played rook fb1, you should have thought about a possible queen takes rook, because two rooks for a queen, black would love that. So this was also another idea which black did not go for. He played queen e6, and then there was one critical moment in which he had a very nice way to attack. So I'm just going to that position after queen takes c3. It's white to move. I would like to ask the chat, what would white play here? What you would play if you were white in this position? So I'm just waiting for the answers from the chat to see what the chat feels. Hello Mindal. Hi KK Mishra. I have picked the games randomly, so don't ask me about the names. Ask me about the games. And yes, do like Avyaya Bhatt is right. Knight h5. Keshav Srivastav, Dhanashri, knight h5. Yes, knight h5 is right. Not if you play rook takes c7 in this position, he'll take queen takes d3. So there is no back rank made after queen takes d3, rook takes d3, because rook d8 is coming. So that means knight h5 should have been played, create more threats. This was the best move in the position. Very well pointed out by a few of you in the chat. Very good. But he went rook a7, and after that, opponent just played f6 and gave away the full point. Like he just threw the point away, and then after rook g7, Sri Harinathan won the game. So this was a game with a lot of mistakes from both the sides, but I have some tips for Sri Harinathan, because he sent us this game and his game was selected by the random number generator. So what are the tips I have for Sri Harinathan? Number one, keep an eye on opponent's threats and ideas. Chess principles also have exceptions. Why I say this is, it's good to castle in the game. You said that it was clear that you were following some basic principles of the opening, and you thought, okay, making castling is a normal move, but in this position it was an exception. If you castle here, you are in danger after knight d4. So with that first tip, I want to tell that every principle has exceptions. You must know about it. Then you must have this you should develop a feeling for initiative and attack by going to some instructive games, because in the game I saw that knight h5 should come naturally, but it did not. You went for rook c7. So try focusing on games in which one side succeeds in attacking the opponent's king. So I have a recommendation. You can study this book called Mating the Castle King. It's published by Quality Chess, and then you can watch an engaging chess commentary where you get to know the thoughts and ideas of the players. Even if the players are not talking, you can understand what the players are considering or could be considering by watching this commentary. So maybe do that. That can help you in understanding the essence of the position. That is what I want you to do, because I saw that you made a lot of pawn moves not knowing what to do. So this could be some suggestions that you could use in your games. With that, let's move on to game number 2. The game number 2 is between the power 787898 versus Soul Dust. So this was sent to us by Sahil, who is white in this game. So Sahil played e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, c3, knight f6. In this position, there are many moves possible. One is d3, one is d4, one is castles. But in this position, Sahil chose queen c2, guys, which I don't really like so much, because by playing queen c2, you are putting your queen to a square in which it does very little. It's only doing its defensive job. But if you play d4, that's a main line, I think you will have more opportunities. So consider that next time. But a queen c2 happened, knight g4 castles, all this is fine. Now I'm coming to a critical position after queen g6. Already you can see that black's pieces are very well placed and in comparison with the white's pieces, so I cannot really say much about this. But let's come to the critical position where I have an important suggestion. Yeah, in this position after c4, bishop c7, you can move this bishop. You see knight b3 can come anytime. Maybe play bishop a4 and then exchange this knight. That's a good idea. Then here you move your pawn to h4, weakening the g4 square terribly. So again, pawn moves, you must be very careful when you are going with the pawn moves. Then coming to this position here, after knight e3, the good part about this game is you realize that you can create a threat with knight d5. So after your opponent played knight h5, you noticed the drawback of knight h5 is that the d5 square is no longer in black's control, and you went knight d5, which I like very much. Now bishop d8 is not coming because of bishop d8, rook d8 and knight d7 fork. So that means you have a good eye for tactics, Sahil. It was good that you were able to see this, and you got a winning position. So after this you were a full piece up, and you also won knight takes c8, which is good. So what is the main point I am coming to is, in this position, like I saw that you gave a lot of chances to your opponent. For example, after bishop h3, f3, queen g3, white is not really threatening, black is not really threatening much, just that the rook is hanging. So you could have simply gone for the exchange or trading of pieces because you are ahead in material. So you play rook e1 and threaten rook a8. Even if this knight comes to d3, it's not going to do anything. This queen is very well guarding g2 square. Your knight is also there in case of emergency. You can always play knight f1. So you don't really need this rook to do something on f1. You can go with rook e1 and trade. When you are ahead in material, trade pieces. And then you gave away the exchange because now knight e1, queen e1 is not possible because of the mate. Your position is so winning that even after such a mistake you are able to still say, yeah, nothing is happening, you are still fine. So in this position, one cheeky move would have been bishop f7 to attack the queen. Like rook f7 is met by back rank mate. But you went for knight g4, still fine. This is also fine. Now you decided to give away the knight, still fine. And then after queen d3, there is a simple position. Maybe I'll ask this to chat. What would you like to play? Hello Rakesh. So what would you like to play as white? Hello Mayank, hello Abhishek, hello Arnav. So this is the position, and the move will shock you. The move white played in the game was b7, completely ignoring the gift that black has given. Thank you, Arnav. We are hoping that we reach 10k before the year ends. Siddhant Lingam is correct. Queen takes g7 is a mate. So this mate was missed. And then queen f3. Now this position is not so easy anymore. After queen h4, it is only black who will have chances. If black plays f3, then gaya game, position gaya. It's like queen g2 is coming, queen e2, mate is threatened. But black kept on giving checks and allowed the white king to run away, and this game was like filled with a lot of mistakes but instructive in nature. Now after king e7, black has a nice move to win the black queen. He can simply play rook f7, check and win the queen, but he did not go for it. He went queen f5, and after queen f5, he got to do this back ranking. So what are the tips I have for game number 2, Sahil? Number 1, you must practice what is the threat. Very important. Number 2, use the map technique which I also mentioned in the previous episode. You must sit with the position and try to ask yourself, what is this piece doing? Or what kind of pawn breaks are possible in the position. Do this especially when you are studying the games of masters, and I would suggest that you watch Mike Klein's videos on chess.com or on YouTube channel. And before you go for this game report, I would suggest that you first see what kind of mistakes you have spotted in your own games, then compare then it would be fun to match your analysis with the chess.com analysis report. So that way you are exercising your own mind before getting to the answer. So it's like every game can be considered like a position for you, and then you analyze them on your own, and then you check with the game report and see whether your mistakes, the list of mistakes that you have done, whether they match with the computers and whether you have missed something. So I would suggest that you heavily practice this question, what is the threat, what is the threat, and use the map technique, observe the board, because you see queen g7 mate is possible but you did not go for it. So that means you must increase your awareness, board awareness. Yes, hi Jayesh and hi Ashish. Rakesh will be there probably in the next episode. Let's come to the third game. The third game was sent to me by sent to chess.com India by Suryansh. So white is Suryansh, and this is the game. After e4, d6, d4, e5, knight f3, knight bd7, knight c3. This is called the Philidor defense, and some of you may be considering a move like bishop f7, but it's not really that great. Bishop f7, king f7, knight g5, king g8, knight e6, queen e8. This goes on. I don't think this is so good for white. It's just a fancy little trick, but doesn't work. And in this position, he played rook e1, which is correct. You defend the pawn. And black plays c6, making space for the queen to come to c7, at the same time also controlling d5 and b5. So white plays a4, discouraging any kind of b5. Now after b6, he played a very nice move. He played b3, which is played by a lot of grandmasters. Bishop b7. So the player playing white pieces actually knows quite a lot of basics. So he's strong with basics. But in this situation, he went for bishop a3. Now bishop a3 has been played before. It's keeping an eye on d6 pawn. But theoretically, bishop b2 is much stronger. The idea is you put bishop on e3, focus on e5, and focus more on completing the development rather than clinging on to one particular aspect of the position. So after a6 he should have played bishop d3 and knight e2 and then knight g3. This was played by none other than Magnus Carlsen. So this is a game I would suggest for you to watch, Carlsen versus Jimenez. It happened this year in 2020, and you can get this game on in live database, but this was not the game. So he went bishop a3. Fine, bishop a3 is fine, but the move he played after that, after bishop a3, a6, he went d takes e5, clarifying that situation in the center, which is wrong. Because by playing d e5, you are helping your opponent to improve the position of the pieces. Now the bishop, which was not doing anything, suddenly is threatening bishop to a3, and this pawn is doing very fine now. Now the pawn on d6 is no longer there, which means black will get to play rook d8 and will be very happy with it. So yeah, so do like the stream, guys. Rakesh is right. And now after bishop b2, his opponent played b5, and now this is the moment in which black starts to roll steam, and black is starting to outplay opponent after ab5, ab5, bishop f1, queen c7. Black has no problems at all. He went for bishop b4 and fell for a trick, but rook takes a1 and then knight c5. Black is doing very good. Bishop b4 was a mistake. This is an opportunity for the chat to figure out why bishop b4 was a mistake. Hello Harshit. So you can tell us what's wrong with this move, bishop b4. So I'm just waiting for the answers to see what the chat thinks. This is a nice instructive position just for training your 1 rupee tactics. Yeah. Knight d5 or knight b5? Knight b5 is correct. Yeah. So knight b5 is the move which is missed. Bishop into d2 is met by knight c7. Bishop e1 is met by knight a8, and white is doing very very fine. Knight b5 was a trick he should have spotted, But after bishop b4, white Suryansh did not spot this tactical trick and he went for queen g5, which is missing an opportunity. So how do we not miss this during the game? CCTP, see if there are checks, captures, threats. So this knight b5 is a capture which should have been one of the candidates if he knew CCTP. Alright, then let's go back to the critical position again. Here he played g3 and allowed his queen to get trapped. I mean, it's in a very uncomfortable situation. Never mind. Let's go on to what happened in the game. He won a lot of material in return, but ultimately, had a bad position. Now in this game, if black had played bishop takes g3, black is still doing fine, but he went for bishop s3, forgetting that rook a8 is a back rank mate. So that was lucky, but I have some tips for Sahil. Every move should serve some purpose. It is important to play with an idea than just making moves, because I saw that you took d e5 without reason, bishop e7, that was not necessary. And it's important that you study more games in the openings you play, because you already are well versed with the basics. It's important that you study the games that the openings that you have in mind. You see more games of it, so you know what not to do and what to do in the openings. And I saw that you missed knight b5, so I have added that you solve tactical positions to improve your awareness. And since you are doing very well generally, because you developed your pieces well, I would suggest that you stick to a training plan so that it can help you become more serious about practice. Devote some time for study of endgame, middle game, because you are already in a stage where you could do all this. You could follow a training plan, so do consider that. Let's go on to the next game. Yes, Deepesh, Siddhant and Pranav and Skanda, you all are right. Let's go to the next one. So this is game number 4. For game number 4, we have the game between Anuptu and Paviseth. So Paviseth is black and he centers this game. So let's look at it from black's perspective. After d4, knight c6, his opponent played e3. Now this move knight c6 is possible to play, but I think you can consider playing more traditional lines if you are starting out chess, because this knight will be attacked sometimes. So you will have to move this knight again. This is a move that I have played myself with black, but I would say that don't try this at home without experience. So there is a system called the Dark Knight system, which is written by, I think, James. You can study that, but I would not really suggest this at this point of time. But let's go ahead. After bishop b5, a very important moment for the chat. What would you play as black? Harshit Gupta, you must prioritize the development of pieces no matter what. If you are not able to bring the pieces out, it means that you have done something wrong in the beginning. So you have to just accept that and move on and see if there is an opportunity in the future to get your pieces developed. So again, coming back to this position after bishop b5, the knight on c6 is pinned. What do we do as black? a6. Pranav, that is the move that was played in the game, and I'm afraid that's not the best move. So in this position, you need not really go for double pawns. Why allow the shattering of your pawn structure on the queen side? So that's the question. You can simply play bishop d7 and say thank you very much, I don't want to ruin my pawn structure. So bishop d7 was fine, but no, he did not. He played a6, Paviseth, and then bishop to c6 happened. So this is the only main point I had in the game. The rest of the game you played quite well. You took a lot of advantage of the opponent's bad moves. You attacked the queen whenever possible, and then you went on to win the game. So that was the only tip I had for you. In addition to that, let's see what else I can offer. Construct a good repertoire based on your playing style. So that's the only tip I have, because you play the rest of the game very well. The beginning stage, I think you should play bishop d7. Don't have to double the pawns. And now that you know the rules of chess, I think just have a sample plan. Maybe do some basic opening study so that you get a reasonable position. Your opponent did not play well this game, but every opponent will not be like this. So you have to be prepared with a better opening next time. With that, let's go to game number 5. This is a game that was sent to us by Naveen Kumar, and Naveen Kumar is white, so let's flip the board. He played a traditional Rilo plays, which is all fine. Everything is fine. He played all the basic moves correctly. He got e5 break also at the right moment, and now in this position he made a mistake. Now I would like to ask this question to the chat. What would you like to do as white in this position? Harshit, Skanda, no, Bishop d7. Pranav Rajesh, you are right. Bishop d7 was right in the earlier example. Bishop c3, knight c3. Okay, interesting. E6. E6 is falling for a trap. The drawback of e6 is that it opens the line for the bishop. So definitely not e6 and definitely not ed6. Knight c3 is possible, but I don't like it. The best move is bishop b2. So bishop b2 is the best move in the position. You just develop the piece, that's all. But ed6 was a blunder and opponent did not take advantage of it. He simply took cd6. So this is the danger of playing the autopilot moves. Bishop f6 would have won the at least a piece, I think. The rook is gone. So this was something that Naveen Kumar missed and his opponent as well. So ed6 was mistake strategically also. You should maintain the tension, don't clarify the tension. And then after a few moves you can see that I think this is the position. He went knight f3 check, and then after king g2, rook d1, he just lost the piece. But if he had played king h1, then rook d1, queen e4 would not have been possible because of rook d8 back rank. So this was one difference I noticed. So after knight f3 check, king g2 is a blunder because it allows knight takes e1 with the check, but his opponent did not go for it. So lucky Naveen, he played rook d1, rook c8, and then now rook d8 happened, and Naveen won. So here if opponent had taken knight takes e1, he would have been in great danger. So here it was important to play king h1. Yeah, so those were some of the critical moments from this game. Now what are the tips I have for Naveen? That's game number 5. So Naveen, I want you to maintain the tension in the position. Don't play ed6 unless it's necessary. And then exchanges usually benefit the defender. So when you are exchanging, even in the case of bishop into f6 in this game, I think it's not necessary. You played bishop takes f6 on your own. You could have simply played knight c3. Why exchange? Why bring that queen on d8 to f6? So by every move you play, ask yourself whether you are helping yourself or your opponent. So bishop f6 not needed at all. Just simply play knight c3 and you're fine. Then when your queen is attacked, consider moving it to a square where it cannot be attacked easily. You save the tempo that way. What I mean with this is, in your game when your opponent attacked your queen with rook c8, you could have simply played queen a4. Now knight c5 is not possible because white can simply take knight c5. But by playing queen d5 you are saying, attack me once more like rook fd8, giving a free move to your opponent. Don't do that. When your opponent is attacking queen, move it. Don't go to a square where you can be attacked again. That way you are helping your opponent. So that was the tip. And then the last tip was to study the games of Capablanca. I think you can get the simplicity, the nature of simplicity from studying the games of Capablanca, because I think you are a player who likes to simplify positions, but learn it the way Capablanca does. Then maybe it will have a good impact in your game. With that, let's go on to game number 6, which is Roland versus Shashi Kumar. So Shashi Kumar sent us this game. Yes, so Lohit, Pranav, Rajesh, yes, good to see that you are attempting. Let's go to the next game. In the next game, Shashi Kumar was black, and we have this position after queen f3, castles d3, knight c6. Opponent played bishop g5, which is a mistake. This is the position, it's black to move. Will you play bishop e7 or will you play something else? It's very easy to find out the best move for black. Let's see if Pranav Rajesh, Harshit is right. Harshit finds it, it's knight d4. You attack the queen, and if the queen goes back to d1, you play c6 and don't let your opponent pin and take advantage of this pin. So this is a very nice position for black. But instead he went bishop e7 and then it went for a normal position. Now after knight d5, there was a nice opportunity for Shashi Kumar. I'm just going to show that. This was fine. So let me get that position. Yeah. So in this position, knight d4 would have won the game straight away. Instead of playing d6, just knight d4. And the queen has no square. Queen cannot come to h3 because d5 bishop will attack the queen. Queen cannot come to g3 because there is bishop h4. Also there is check and then bishop f4. Queen has no square. Queen g4, queen h3 both are met by d5. For instance, you see the bishop is lost. So this was a immediate way to just gain advantage which he missed. And then I think in the game bishop into e3 is a move I would never make. Why exchange that knight? You have a good bishop which is capable of attacking this queen and trapping it also almost. So why give bishop e3? This I don't understand. This is a blunder. And then later in the game I saw that you played d5 and then weakened the pawns. And then later the d5 pawn also was in danger. You can see that after c4 this pawn was also in danger. So there were some committal moves which were not really necessary in the game. And what are the tips I have for you? When your opponent violates basic principles in the opening, it is a good idea to consider consistent threats. Knight d4, because your opponent developed his queen early, which is not right. So knight d4, and exchanges don't exchange unnecessarily. Is your move helping you or your opponent? This is a question you must ask, because in that position you played bishop takes e3. That knight was not doing anything. You could have played bishop f4 and attacked the opponent's queen. And pawn moves are expensive thing before you invest on them because they cannot move backwards. Because I noticed that you made a lot of pawn moves which benefited your opponent, not you. So please pay attention to those things. With that, let's go to game number 7, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So we are into game number 7 and this was played by Shailesh. And Shailesh was black, crazy voyager. So let's see what's the game about. This is a Chigorin opening, all fine, no problem. And in this position, bishop f3 was not necessary. Why play bishop f3? I see that a lot of you have tendencies to exchange pieces. Remember, you don't have to exchange pieces unless necessary or unless you get an advantage out of it. So this is a tendency you must stay away from. Unlearn this tendency. After bishop f3, he played e5, which is even like not noticing the drawback. If you play e5, you are taking away the protection of the pawn on d5. I thought you were going to play bishop f3 and then dc4 at least. But no, that was not your intention. So that means bishop f3 was completely bad. You could have played dc4, bishop c4 and then maybe tried something like castles and e5. Something like this makes sense. But bishop f3, no. Stay away from such unnecessary captures. And then after e5, you lost a pawn. Now after losing the pawn, I noticed that you were exchanging pieces. Because you were a pawn down, you should not exchange. You should keep the pieces. For example, in this position after a3, you went bishop c3, which is not right. You should maintain the pieces, keep the bishops. Keep as many pieces as possible so that you can create more tension, because material wise you are already pawn down. So when you are down in material, like, don't go for exchanges. Preserve your pieces. So those were two important things I had to tell you about this game. Later I saw that your opponent made heavy blunders. After queen f3 d4, you got this trick d takes c3, because rook d8 is met by rook d8 and opponent has back rank problems, which is what gave you the point, which tells me that you are noticing tactics, but take care of your basic strategy. know which piece to exchange, should we exchange or not. These questions you must pay attention to. Hi Naveen, hi Jayesh, how to send the games? Naveen, you are right, you can send the games by looking at the description. I have already covered 8 games. Now I'm on to, I think I already covered 7 games and now I'm on to the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next game, which is 8th game, but before I go to the 8th game, let me show the tips that I have for Sashi Kumar. Not Sashi Kumar, sorry. These tips were for Sailesh, Crazy Voyager. So what are the tips I had for Crazy Voyager? Learn the basics of the openings you play, do a blunder check. I am referring to your move e5. Why play e5? The pawn on d5 is losing support. And then as soon as your opponent makes a move, focus on the difference that has made in the position. And don't exchange material when you are down, don't exchange pieces when you are down in material. And then as a general advice, I am suggesting that you solve a lot of puzzles. This will help you a lot. But mainly, take care of your basic strategy. Don't exchange unnecessarily and notice the drawbacks. Do a blunder check. Just when you are about to make a move, ask yourself, is any piece of yours hanging, or is your opponent's piece hanging? Are your pawns losing support with the move you are about to make? These questions you must consider. Let's go to game number 8, and this is a game between Shahrukh. So Shahrukh has sent us this game, Shahrukh versus Philomela, and Shahrukh was white, so let's look at it from his perspective. And Shahrukh played e4, e5, all good. This is fine. And he is following all the basic principles correctly. And after knight c6, I like his decision. But before I reveal his move, I would like to throw this to the chat. What would you like to play as white? Hello Shresh, thanks for joining. Hello Srinivas. Hi Rishabh. We are taking games in which you need help. So if you have any games that you have played on chess.com and you would like us to analyze or give some tips based on the games, you can send those games. The link is in the description. So this is the position again. Coming back, what would you play as white? I like the move or the continuation chosen by Shahrukh. Queen d3 Pranav, it's met by knight e5. Would you like to give away your c4 bishop so early in the game? Himaya Virla is saying knight takes c6. What about b takes c6? What would you do then? Naveen is also saying knight takes c6, but what about b takes c6? Knight c6 followed by bishop g5. Okay, I'm going to reveal the move now. The move played by Shahrukh is knight c6, then bishop c5, which is correct. When you are getting a chance to triple your opponent's pawns, why not? So he did this, and then he went for queen d8, which is actually according to the demands of the position. So very nice play by Shahrukh. And after rook d1, he went rook a d1. Again perfect move. And after bishop e6, he went for bishop e6. But in this position, I think he can simply win a pawn. He can play rook d8 and play bishop a6. This is possible. But if this was not his intention, even then, this is an instructive movement. After bishop e6, f6, white to move. What would you do as white? Would you play f4 or would you play something else? You can see that black's position is terrible. Pawn structure is completely messed up. But how will you continue as white? That's a very important question. Yes, Bondita, you can also send games which are drawn by accident. We accept all kinds of games. Just that you have to play the game on chess.com and that's all. Siddhant is saying e5. E5 gives away d5 square. Do you want to do that? Yeah, knight a4, the e4 pawn is hanging if you play knight a4. f4 because e6 pawn is weak. Rook e1, e5. Aditya and Anudeep, f3. I like the move played by Avyaya Bhatt. f3. The point is not just to support the pawn on e4, but to also bring your king into the game, guys. This is important. We have reached a stage where we can say that it's almost an end game, and king is an active piece in the end game. The move f3 also restricts your opponent's knight, which is what you need to notice. This would have been the best move. I would have given best move award also, f3, if he had found, Shahrukh had found f3, but he went for f4, giving some scope for the black knight. Now this black knight will play knight e3 and create some unnecessary trouble. So after that, he still had a good chance, and then they went into an end game, but all the advantage is lost now. Now the advantage that he had earned with all these nice moves, he lost it by playing all the remaining moves. So he played f4, and then lot of pieces got exchanged, and then he went on to, I think, lose this game, which is I mean, not good in this game. So he played, you see, a lot of pawn moves, but he should have invested on king, improve the king, because king is active piece in the end game. You must use it. So with all these committal moves, he just kept pushing the pawns. These pawns later went on to become very weak, as you can notice. So this pawn on f6 is weak because it cannot really get a lot of support from the king, because king has to face a check. And then later, because of some time issue, or by premature mouse click probably, he lost the game. But the lesson from this game is, how do you handle a position which is better for you after the middle game. So I have some tips for Shahrukh. I think Shahrukh's game is game number 8. Okay. So Shahrukh, king is an active piece in the end game. You must use it. So f3 is the move I would suggest, and improve position patiently rather than hurrying with committal moves in the end game with so many weaknesses. Your opponent's c pawns are tripled. When you have such a heavy advantage, don't hurry with pawn moves. Bring your king, activate your pieces even further. And if you want to know how to do it, I would suggest that you study the games of these guys that I have mentioned. Capablanca, Smyslov, Kramnik Carlsen and Rubinstein, because they are great endgame experts. And if you want a book recommendation, then I have one. It's called How to Play Chess Endgames by Carsten Muller and Pajek. So you must definitely check these out, and it can help you in elevating your endgame skills to another level. Let's get back and let's focus on game number 9. The game number 9 is between Meet Pandya and Vishwamrut. So here Meet Pandya has sent us this game, who is Vishwamrut as black. So we'll check from his perspective. It's a Sicilian, and everything is fine until here. In this position, after h6, bishop h4. Now here is the question. What would you like to do as black? This is a question to the chat. It's a normal knight of position. Yes guys, do like the stream, and if you are coming here for the first time, then subscribe to our channel. Harshit is saying knight takes e4, but what about bishop takes e7? And then if you take knight takes c3, then bishop takes d8. And then knight takes d1, you may take rook d1. So calculate the entire line. It's very important that you do that. Hi Vidit Pans, greetings. Yeah, everybody is saying knight e4. This is a very tempting idea, but sorry to share that it's not the best move. Queen c7 or pawn to a6, they make sense, but not knight takes e4 in this position, because knight takes e4 is met by bishop e7, and after knight c3, white can simply play bishop into d8, and after knight d1, white has knight takes e6, guys. And after f e6, bishop takes e6, check, king moves, white can simply play rook f d1, and after rook d8, he can play rook d6. I know that it's a long line to calculate, but I mean, this is a possibility. I am not saying that this is the best, but this is a possibility. But for black, it's not necessary that black goes into knight takes e4. That's the point. It's not like tactically a blunder, but I don't think black is ready for a sequence like knight takes e4 yet. He could play a6 or queen c7 and keep going, but not this particular idea. And then what happened in the game was white simply blundered. He could have simply played bishop d1, knight d1, and then maybe even bishop e7, and white would have a very nice position. But he went for queen f3, which gave a chance to Meet Pandya. So he played queen takes e7, and after queen c3, simple pawn up. Now when you are ahead in material, it's important that you develop your piece at least to good. You are ahead in material, but you still have a lot of work to do. You must play knight f6, bishop d7. I think going with your knight to b6 was not the best decision, because your knight should be on f6, not on b6. On b6 it can further be attacked. That's the reason I don't like it there. And then in this position, after queen d4, I am going to ask this question to the chat. What would you like to play as black? Yeah, Rishabh, Pranav, I understand that the move which you are suggesting is possible, but my question is, was that necessary? Why can you just simply play a6 or queen c7? Because black is not really ready enough to go into that tactical sequence. Coming back to this position, queen c5. Would you like to play queen c5? Hi Chesopedia, welcome. Knight c4. Knight c4, yeah, that's possible. Aditya has a good idea in mind, but when you are ahead in material, don't shy away from offering exchange of queens. So in this position, knight c4 is a decent move, no doubt, but queen c5 would have been probably better, I think. Simply play queen c5 and offer the exchange of queens and see if your opponent agrees to that. If your opponent denies, let's say plays queen d2, then you can play f6, rook e8, bishop c6, e5, something like this, possible. Don't allow knight e5 unnecessarily. But he played bishop c6, and after a5, knight c4, the advantage was lost to a great extent, which is what I don't like. For example, after knight c4, white can play knight e5 and say that white is doing fine. Though he is pawned down, he still has some resources. But that was one point I had in mind to share. Queen c5 could have been possible. And then in the game, I think he later went on to win, because opponent just allowed queen to come to f3 and then he won the game. So what are the tips I have for our Meet Pandya? Let's go. Improve your ability to evaluate the positions, pick a position and evaluate it and then compare it. Why I am asking you to train evaluation is because you must know whether that position is good enough to go for knight takes e4. So improve your evaluation by solving some exercises based on evaluation, or simply look at the position and try to judge whether that position is good for you, and then compare that with your engine and just see whether you are doing it right. And queen c5, exchanging pieces is a good strategy when you are ahead in material. So queen c5 was the best move. And then I would suggest that you also improve your visualization skills, because to calculate that sequence with knight takes e4, you need to have good visualization skills. Because after knight e4, bishop e7, knight c3, bishop d8, knight d1, this long sequence requires imagination and visualization. So start with solving endgame studies. That could help you or encourage you to even do better when it comes to calculations. So those were my tips for you. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to game number 10. Game number 10 is a game between Utsav and T0 mate, and Utsav sent us this game and he was white, and this is a Caro-Kann. His opponent simply gave away the bishop for no reason, and then we reached this position where he went c5. But I would like to pause here and ask what you would like to do as white. Of course, c5 is a decent move, but can you play something else? Let's ask the chat. So c5, the bishop, he played c5 in the game and attacked the bishop. But given a chance, what would you like to do as white? Queen a4. Interesting. Queen a4, what if opponent plays bishop f4. Rook c1, very interesting, but rook c1 also bishop f4. Now black has not got double bishop, it is white who has double bishop. d5 slightly premature as of now, but Bondita and some of you are saying rook c1, knight d5 definitely not, because you see how many attackers are there, 1, 2, 3, and how many defenders, just one, so you cannot play knight d5, you will lose a pawn. Bishop f4 is threatened and black wants to exchange the bishop so that white doesn't enjoy the double bishop advantage, so you must play g3 in the position. Because there is no dark square bishop, so you need not worry about these weaknesses. So g3 would have been a very nice move. It's like a typical grandmaster move in the position, but you went for c5 Utsav, which somehow gives the chance for black to exchange off your bishop. But still okay, this is fine. And now after bishop f4, knight f4, you played g3. But you know, I think you should have actually retained this bishop, because after you play g3, it's all about knights. But by playing bishop b1, you would have retained some distinction. You would have said that, okay, now I have queen c2 ideas if the king goes here, and if the king goes here, then I also have b4, b5, and I can always play bishop e4 in the future. So it's important to retain this bishop. But you gave that, your opponent did not take it, and after knight g6, you voluntarily went and captured on g6, which is a strategical blunder. Why? Bishop g6, you are opening the eyes of this rook which was sleeping, and suddenly now it is awake, and now it is in action just by sitting at its original square. So this is an instructive mistake. A lot of players can learn from this mistake. Don't exchange pieces like this. It's bad culture, they say. Russians used to say it's bad culture to exchange things like this. So bishop g6, again, not the move I would suggest. And now here after queen b3, your opponent played f6 and gave you the free pawn. But otherwise this position has still chance for both sides. So you can actually play a practice game from this position. Ask your friend to play this position as black, or you can take black and see how white does, but don't play f6. Because your opponent played f6, you won a pawn and then won the game. So those were my pointers for your game. So let's see what are the tips I have for you. So it's game number 10. Learn the main lines of the classical openings, which is Caro-Kann. Don't help your opponent by opening lines for your opponent's pieces. By that I mean bishop into g6, which you should not have taken. And use double bishops to your advantage by securing them and opening the position at the right time. By this I mean the move g3. When you know that your opponent wants to go bishop f4, it makes sense to play g3 and stop the exchange of pieces. Double bishops is an advantage worth having. Let's go on to game number 11. This is a game played by Avyaya Kumar Bhatt. I think he's also in the chat. Great to see him. And his game against Squirrel Egg, I don't know how to pronounce it, but there is some squirrel in the name, so let's go with that. And he played white, so we'll look at it from white's perspective, and it's a normal anti-Sicilian kind of a game. And then in this position he played queen g3, which is fine. This is an instructive moment. After bishop f6, he went king h1, which is a mistake. I'm openly telling, that's not the best move. Now this is an opportunity for the chat. Avyaya Bhatt, hi. What would you like to do as white given a second chance? Also to the chat, what would you like to do as white? Aditya, if you have sent the game, it means we have received it. It is just that we are picking the games randomly, so we don't know who is who. So we're just picking the games by number. And we are on game number 60. We have 61 likes. It would be great to have 100 likes. So if you are here, please like the video. Pranav Rajesh is saying e5. Eddie 007 is also saying e5. Yeah, e5 is a possibility. In this game, if you play e5, then you must consider d e5, and after d e5, fe5, knight e5, you can play bishop f4, and I would say that white has good position. But the best move is not e5. Master Blaster, I am sorry, but it's all luck. We are drawing, it's like lottery. Someday you have to hope. Just keep sending your games, and one day maybe you will have your chance, Master Blaster. F5, yes. So he has made the correction, and e5, d5, knight e4. That's your idea, okay? e5, d5, knight e4. Possible. After knight e4, black can simply go knight g e7. And then you can take knight f6, gf6 and say that white's position is very good after queen g7, and I agree. But there is a move which is even better than this, which is f5. You directly create tension, the e6 pawn, and then e pawn cannot be touched because knight will come to d5 and sit there. And if knight comes to d5, then f6 will be in danger. If f6 is in danger, g7 will be in danger. So it's all connected. That's the reason f5 is a stronger move. ef5 is out of question. You cannot even consider moves like this because knight d5 and it's game over. Queen b8, then knight f6 followed by queen g7. If queen d8, then d6 is following. Also ef5 is happening. So f5 was important, but king h1 is a mistake. After knight e7, rook e1, queen a5, e5, knight f5, queen f2, queen s3. Now I cannot really say that position is better for white anymore. So now black got chance to recover, and the position is not so easy anymore. This position is already way better to black because the bishop is stuck. The knight has no square here. This bishop is still on c1. It has not seen the light of the day. So in the last few moves, Avyavya Bhatt, he completely ignored the development of his pieces, but played a lot of committal moves, which should be avoided. When you know your opponent's king is in the center, you must consider pawn breaks, and you must consider moves that bring your pieces to the game immediately. Because you see, because this bishop is sleeping, the rook is also sleeping, for which you paid the price, and then this is completely gone because the king came into danger, and then black enjoys a very nice advantage because of your king's position. And then this was like lost, but somehow you got a draw. So let me come to that point. I was surprised to see that this game ended in a draw, but because you drew, I can say that you did not give up in the game. After king d3, there was a point in which I think you were completely busted. Somewhere here, I think. Yeah, somewhere here is completely gone position, but to recover and even draw the game is remarkable. So without focusing too much on the elementary mistakes, I am going to tell you what you are supposed to do to improve. Study positions based on the theme attack against the uncastled king, because the king was in danger and your opponent did not castle, and you should have played f5. When your opponent's king is in the center, you must try to open the lines and then talk to your pieces. Don't deprive them of the scope by your own moves. If you had talked to this bishop on c1, the bishop would have been very angry on you because you are not developing the bishop. You must develop the bishop and bring all toys. This is a term from Jakob Agard. When I am teaching to kids, I use BAT. What is BAT? Bring all toys. You must bring all the pieces into the game. Every piece must participate in the attack, and which is what was missing in your game. So consider these ideas, and I hope these tips will help you to further improve your game. Let's go to the 12th example. That is the 12th game that we have. This is game of Renier Gonzalez against Girish Kaushik, and Renier Gonzalez played a very nice position. Like he employed the London system, but I have a suggestion here. When you are employing the London system, consider making knight c3. Here, if you include this, you can enjoy more success, I think, practically, because after knight c3, you are forcing your opponent to decide whether he wants to play d5 or d6. If he goes castles, you can play e4, which is called the Barry attack or the 150 attack. Study games on this. If your opponent plays d5, then you can play the Barry attack, which is bishop e2 and then knight e5 and then h4, h5, which is a system that could suit your style of play, I think. But if you go by the traditional London system, placing your bishop on d3 has a drawback, because the black pawn can come to d6 and e5, attack your bishop and then further play e4 and then forking opportunities arise. That is the reason I think you should not play bishop to d3 that frequently. If black has not decided whether he is going to go d6 or d5, put your bishop to e2 or first bring your knight. But deciding on your bishop here is not the best strategy because you see your opponent got a very nice position already. And now going h4 and g4 is completely opposite to the demand of the situation. You cannot play g4 like this. Your king is in the center, opening your own king position without having good place for your pieces is not a good strategy. So in a matter of few moves, you see your opponent completely has all the control. Bishop is nice, knight is coming to d4, rook will join the attack, your king is in the center, your attack on the king side is completely neutralized. So all in favor of black because you made a lot of strategical errors. So what are the tips I have? After this the position has just collapsed, not much to see, but what are the tips I have for you? Number one, when it comes to openings, you need to study three aspects. So when you want to play London system, you must know the basic principles and theme of that opening, where the pieces belong and what kind of pawn structures arise or pawn breaks that come in the game. And I already suggested that you consider trying the Barry attack or the 150 attack against this London, go knight c3, and then strategic errors can be avoided by understanding the do's and don'ts of the position. So I want you to study more games in these lines, so you know when to go h4 g4 and when not to go h4 g4, and draw conclusions after every game analysis. So when you analyze a game or after you played a game also, it's a good idea to look at the game and see what went wrong and draw conclusions, write them down so that you don't repeat those mistakes again. And it's good that you got an opportunity to play with Karnataka's Grandmaster. So great, good job on that. Let's go. I hope you learned something from these tips and use them in your own games. With that, let's go to the next game, which is game number 13. This was sent to us by Pratik, and Pratik was white, and we have a London system again. And again, after queen b6, queen c2, g6, knight gf3, bishop f5, we reach a position which is very critical. He went and played bishop d3, which is not the best move. The best move here is dc5. So after queen c5, you can play queen b3. This is played by Tabatabai against Moskalenko on chess.com in 2020. So you can find that game in the database, but not bishop d3. Bishop d3 is like not playing for an advantage. Your opponent has easy way to equalize. He just took the pawn, which is fair enough. And after this, even after getting rook b7, I don't think your opponent had any trouble actually. He should have simply played c4, and after queen b1, rook b1, bishop g7, black is in no danger, plus he has an outside passed pawn. But he went for bishop g7, which is a blunder, and after rook c8, knight e5, queen a1 checking into queen takes h1. This I will leave it to the chat to see what will white do, what you would do if you are white. So what would you like to do as white in this position? So I just got to know that we have a lot of followers on Twitch as well. Great to know that. Welcome. Thanks for being here. All 2,600 of you. Great to see. On chess.com/TV as well. So this is an initiative we do on chess.com India, where players can send the games to us and we analyze them every Friday. So I just noticed that we have so many of you on Twitch. So in this position, after queen h1, let's see what the chat is saying. Surin Mafia is saying knight c6. Maybe there is something better. You're welcome, Srihari. Thank you, Aryan, for letting us know. I just noticed the Twitch chat. Yeah, there is something better than knight into c6, Surin Mafia. And please consider following us on Twitch. Okay, so I'm about to reveal the answer now. The answer is queen takes c6, and after rook c6 there is a mate. So that was the part of the whole combination. So what are the tips I have for Pratik? Let's go. Quickly check. Improve your knowledge of the London system by studying the recent trends. Also make an attempt to learn main lines as they serve you better in the long run. Don't stick with London system and sit with it. I suggest that you learn main lines as well. This is very important if you want to play a lot of tournaments, because London system can only take you somewhere but it cannot take you to better places. Take some positions from your own games and play practice games with a friend, coach, or a sparring partner. And if you want to improve your knowledge further in the London system, I suggest that you study the games of these guys: Gada Kamsky, Magnus Carlsen, Vladimir Kramnik, and Sandeepan Chanda. So that was about London system and what you could do to improve based on the game that I saw. With that, let's move on to one final game, and this is a game of Pragyan. So Pragyan centers this game. This is the final game, and he was black here, and it was a Mora but not Mora. So opponent did not play c3. Opponent took queen takes d4, and after knight c3 he went back, and we reach a very important position after this. Here black took knight takes e4. My question to you is, was this move correct? You can answer in a yes or no and tell me if knight takes e4 was right. So would you like to play knight takes e4 if you are black? That's the question. So I see some chat messages. No. Yes, you should not take knight takes e4. Hi Ashwit. Yeah, this is the mating pattern, yes, but Surin, this is not the right moment to execute that mating pattern. So that is the reason it's a mistake. So knight takes e4 was a mistake because after bishop d8, bishop f took me to knight d4, king d3, there is no follow-up, because after knight c5, king can even come to c4 and there is no mate. It feels as if mate should happen, but there is no mate. Now after king c3, knight a4 check, he went king d3. Now this was a good chance for black to recover material with knight takes b2 fork, but he did not go for it, and that is why I think it just cost him heavily. He simply went for knight c5, and now I am going to come to a very nice position. This position after knight c6 check, opponent should have played king c3, but he went king a3. Can you spot the best move for black in this position? Siddhant is right, there should be a pawn on d3 for this to work, you are right. And yeah, king d2 is also coming. Yeah, Pranav Rajesh is right, just b4. Ashwit is also right, Rakesh is also right, just b4, and it was a mate. This checkmate was missed by Pragyan, and he went on to lose this game. He played knight e6 and then lost the advantage, and then after that there was not really much of a chance for Pragyan. The game ended quickly later and then he lost, but the lessons from this game are many. So I'm just going to quickly take you through the lessons. Don't get excited by a pattern, be objective and play it only if it works. So that is the reason I asked you in the earlier stage whether knight e4 is correct. It's a pattern, our mind recognizes it, but we must be objective and see whether it really works. Next, you must consider checks, captures, threats and pawn breaks. If you had considered b4 check, you would know that it's a checkmate. Then I would suggest that you solve a lot of mate in 1 positions. Once you are done with that, go to mate in 2. Once you are done with that, go to mate in 3. With this step by step solving, you will make sure that you won't miss a mate in one again, at least not in situations like these. So I hope you will implement these tips and use them to get better in your chess, and I hope they help you to win some games, because that is the idea of your game our analysis. By sending your games to us, we analyze them and then we give you some tips, and you go and use those tips and improve, and you play and win games. So that was a wrap for episode 4. I covered 14 games this time, even going further. Last time it was 12. And I hope that you will use these tips in your own games. And these all tips were based on the games you sent us. So if you want us to feature your games again next time for episode 5, I would suggest that you send the games to us by filling this form. I'm just going to paste the link of the form. So this is the form. Ashmit, I do make videos for chess.com India whenever I can, and that's a link for the form. Let me paste it here as well. Aditya Gampa, welcome. For you to become a moderator, you have to fill a form. You have to join the Discord channel and fill the form. That's the procedure. Rishabh, I might have received your game if you have sent it, but today was probably not the day where we picked your game. So don't worry, I'll be doing another series again, another episode. Rakesh will be also there. So don't worry about it. We will be back again with another episode soon. We do this video weekly, Ashwit. So at least once a week we have YGOA, that is your game, our analysis. And yeah, I think I'm going to call it an end now. Thank you for watching. I hope these tips have helped you. I'll be back with another episode soon. Until then, take care. Bye bye. And do like our video and subscribe to our channel. Do follow us on Twitch as well as on YouTube. Until then, bye bye.